Oh, so you can't afford to buy me a present for Christmas this year?
I'm beginning to wish that I had rare voice, just because I'm tired of spending more than I should and getting less than I could. It's cheaper than my other phone for sure. I'm beginning to wish that I had rare voice. It's the very best choice. And the happiest thing I'll see are the features that are free. That's why I've got Rare Voice.
Isn't it time you upgrade your home phone? Sign up for RevVoice today, and you can win great weekly prizes and a brand new Honda CR-V from Nassau Motor Company. Get RevVoice home phone for as low as $14.99 a month. Rejoice this Christmas with RevVoice.
An in-depth look at the DNA analysis process in the country, as families sometimes wait months to have their murdered loved ones' bodies returned.
We do not do DNA analysis, but we outsource the service to a lab in the United States.
The victim of this week's helicopter crash identified. What's next for 40 employees at the primary Catholic schools?
That would include the clerical staff, the support staff, as well as the teaching and administrative staff.
Plus, it's Deaf Awareness Week. We look at some of the challenges.
Many people are afraid of the language barrier with our children.
I'm Nikia DeVoe, and this is NB12 Weekend. Everyone, thanks for joining us this Saturday for NB12's Weekend Edition. Every year, the Royal Bahamas Police Force spends thousands of dollars outsourcing DNA analysis to a firm in the United States. It's a process essential to the use of evidence in the criminal justice system, but one that could take weeks, even months to complete and bring closure to a case. In this report, Christina McNeil speaks with an expert in the field who explains the ins and outs of the process.
Television shows like CSI and Law & Order glamorize the use of forensic biology in criminal investigations. But according to the head of the Forensic Biology Unit, Sharia King, the process is oftentimes a bit more tedious and lengthy than portrayed. Each piece of evidence has to be tested for bodily fluids, and if DNA analysis is needed, that evidence has to be sent abroad for additional tests that cost money and time critical to closing a case.
The Forensic Biology Unit of the Royal Bahamas Police Force is small but efficient, testing pieces of evidence for any trace of bodily fluids, be it urine, semen, saliva, blood, or feces. But without the establishment of a forensic DNA lab locally, the unit is still outsourcing DNA analysis. King says the forensic expertise is here, but what is lacking is a facility.
As you can appreciate, not every piece of evidence will be analyzed for every case. But if it's done in-house here in the Bahamas, we can then analyze every single thing. And by doing so, we get a better or probative evidence, and thus we can better give intelligence or offer a proper investigation or better investigation. Not that we're not doing it now, but I think we are restricted to the point of the fact, or for the fact that we are not doing it here in the Bahamas. And like I said, we do have the expertise, we do have the instruments. It's just that we need a facility.
After evidence is gathered from a crime scene, it is taken to the Forensic Biology Unit for analysis. That begins with the study of bodily fluids on each piece of evidence, but King says the length of study depends on the complexity of the case.
The process from since the evidence is submitted to our lab to the point where DNA results is returned to us, that varies from time to time, and it depends on the case-by-case basis. It also depends on the amount of exhibits that are submitted in a case. So there's quite a bit of variables. For instance, another variable may be the fact that additional analysis may be necessary. A variable may be that the fact that an analyst may have to do court reporting testimony or pretrial conferences, all of these other variables will affect the turnaround time for analysis. At this present time, no. Unfortunately, we do not do DNA analysis, but we outsource the service to a lab in the United States.
The Forensic Biology Unit is housed in a former prison at the East Street Police Headquarters. King says the 6-member team has the know-how when it comes to DNA analysis, but there are space constraints that make the establishment of a lab in the unit's current location near impossible.
At this present time, we have the expertise. We have trained analysts that are capable of doing DNA analysis. However, a facility is needed. We have the equipment. However, like I said, the actual facility is needed. DNA analysis requires sterile environment. That environment requires specific rooms to do specific analysis. At this present time, we have space constraints in the present facility that we occupy, and so we would need a facility in order to complete our DNA analysis here.
A location for the lab had been identified at police headquarters after consultation with Fairfax Identity Laboratories. At the time, McCartney was unable to say just how much that lab would cost, but he revealed that each year the Bahamas spends $50,000 on DNA analysis outsourcing. That lab was set to be complete in late 2012, early 2013. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.
35-year-old Troy Sweeting was yesterday sentenced to 12 years in prison for beating his adoptive daughter to death for wetting the bed back in 2007. Justice Roy Jones handed down the sentence. It is said that Sweeting attacked 3-year-old Jennifer Pinder with a leather strap and a PVC pipe when he flew into a rage after she wet the bed. He was convicted of manslaughter on August 16th. Sweeting's lawyer Raymond Roll told our news team that he intended to appeal the conviction. Anthony Delaney and Charles Newbold testified. Well, the victim of Thursday's fatal helicopter crash at Baker's Bay and Ocean Club on Guana Key, Abaco, has been identified as Lance O. Valdez, a Lyford Key resident who reportedly owned the downed aircraft. Though police were yesterday reluctant to confirm the victim's identity, several Lyford Key residents and others who knew him confirmed it is Valdez. Valdez owned property in Lyford Key, and his 2 young daughters attend Lyford Key International School. Well, in other news, as 2 of the capital's Catholic primary schools prepare to close their doors for good, 40 employees are preparing to be reassigned. Director of Catholic Education Claudette Roll talks about the future of the teachers, staff, and faculty at those schools and Catholic education.
What we're going to do is, where we can, we will transition them into schools not only in New Providence, but also the schools in Grand Bahama and Abaco.
Roll says it is hoped that the employees of St. Bede's and Our Ladies will be placed as soon as the new academic year begins on September 1st, 2013. The director told us that people leave the Catholic school system every year, so the transition will be easy for some of the employees. Others, she says, will have to fit in wherever possible, and unfortunately, some may not get the opportunity.
We're hoping to place most of them, of course, and anytime there's a transition and you're looking at an entire school system, you have persons who are exiting at the end of the year as well because of retirement and other reasons. And so we simply, each year, just fill the persons whom we have available into those slots.
On Thursday, Catholic Archbishop Patrick Pinder and Minister of Education, Science and Technology Jerome Fitzgerald announced the permanent closure of St. Bede's and Our Lady's primary schools after years of declining enrollment numbers. However, Roll says that Bahamians should not be concerned about the future of Catholic education in the country, as the Catholic Education Board has a strategic plan in place to keep the remaining schools open.
In that strategic plan, it addresses an area of viability of our schools. And so while we track our schools for more than 5 years, we certainly look at demographics and everything else that would perhaps be major factors into making a decision. And those schools are doing very well. We do not foresee, particularly because of their location, actually there being an attrition of a great number of students from any of those schools. And so we can assure you that Catholic education will be around for another 120 years.
More than 200 students will be impacted by the closures, but the Archbishop said those students will have the ability to transition into other Catholic schools. For 1 year, they will be able to pay the same school fee had they remained at their current schools. According to Roll, the closure of the 2 primary schools will not affect the tuition of the other Catholic schools across the country.